You are listening to the On Purpose Podcast, your guide to living a more purposeful life. Welcome, everybody, to this week's show. It's a privilege to be here with you. I am excited to be recording. This is one of our first episodes from our new solar upgraded Airstream. So now we are completely off-grid, capable of recording from anywhere, just using the power of the sun and our natural resources. And honestly, I love it because it allows us to be way out in nature without making any kind of noise as far as generators or needing electricity. So I'm excited to see what comes of the next year as we embark on our road trip of life, is what we like to call it, just traveling around and living life to our fullest so we don't have no regrets at the end of this thing because we don't know when this ride ends. So I thank you all for being here. It's always a humbling experience to be able to show up to you each and every week and just bring you inspiring, thought-provoking, and purposeful content to help brighten the days of people around the world. And this week, I'm excited to have a guest on. She's an online weight loss coach, personal trainer, sports nutritionist, and specializes in helping women not only lose weight permanently, but increase their confidence and their self-worth because she focuses so much more on the mental coaching and the development of positive mindset in relation to losing weight and just feeling better in life. So this conversation with Esther Avant was fascinating for me. It was a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoy it this week. Let us know your thoughts. Share us messages on any of our social media, on the website, any of the podcast platforms. And just let us know what you think. Have a great week. Enjoy the conversation with Esther Avant. Esther, welcome to the On Purpose Podcast. It is a pleasure to have you here this week.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm excited. I get excited for like the weirdest things when I get guests coming on. Like I love that people are hustling and doing their things in life. But when I find like random stuff, that just fires me up. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to ask about this. So I hope you're ready for some random questions today.
Yes, you have piqued my interest.
Esther, give us a little bit of a bio about you, what you're up to now, and then we'll kind of go into things.
Yeah. So I am a sports nutritionist, personal trainer, health and weight loss coach. I own an online health and weight loss coaching business that helps women lose weight for the last time. So really making the deeper mental and lifestyle related changes that support weight loss that lasts, as opposed to the yo-yo kind of roller coaster of gaining and losing. I'm also a boy mom. I have an almost 5-year-old son. My husband is active duty Navy, and his career has brought us all over the world now. And I am I guess, fitness enthusiast myself. I love brunch. I love being outside. And that's kind of me in a nutshell. I don't have a ton of time outside of family and work and, my core hobbies, but I love what I do and the people that I do it for and with, and obviously the adventures that the military has allowed us to have.
Are you doing most of your business online, or do you have like a club you're associated with or anything?
It's fully online now. So I met my husband, we were living in San Diego. We've kind of crisscrossed the globe a few times now. When we lived in Hawaii, I had a few clients that I trained in our garage gym, and it's just with as frequently as we've been moving and with, the reach that I can have on the internet, it's become fully remote now. We just got back from 3 years in Germany. So that was really kind of the turning point where I was like, all right, it's got to be fully that. I'm not trying to spread myself too thin with in-person stuff as well. Now that we're back in the US and will likely be stable for a decent amount of time, I might consider taking some in-person clients again, but the meat and potatoes is online.
Okay. How much of your clientele is military spouses?
That's an interesting question. It's not who we intentionally cater to.
Okay.
I'd say maybe 15, 20%, not, nothing majorly significant. Interestingly, the majority of my coaches, who are all contractors, have a military affiliation, spouses or daughters and things like that, which wasn't intentional, but I think is really cool, knowing how hard it is to be a military spouse and have your own thing. So the idea that we can help other wives and military family members have something of their own, bring in their own income, and feel like they're doing something worthwhile is very fulfilling.
Yeah, that's huge. And the reason I asked that is growing up as my father was career military, and then I served as well. One of the things when you were saying, I was like, man, that's very empowering, because I think a lot of times in the military lifestyle, the spouse gets lost, and there's very little that the spouse is doing, quite honestly, beyond supporting like their own endeavors. So I was like, man, that's pretty neat if we can get them, buying in and like you said, creating their own businesses that they can travel with.
Yeah, it is very cool, because you're absolutely right. It is hard to maintain a career when you're moving all over, and when so much of the domestic load and just kind of like the life stuff falls on you as the person who is there more steadily. My husband just left yesterday for 4.5 months, and it's tough to be a mom and a spouse doing all the things. I certainly wouldn't compare it to being an actual single parent, but solo parenting and needing to do a lot of the legwork for moves and things like that, not being able to plan ahead very well. It all does take a toll. And I think it's very cool, the opportunities that working online offers, and to be able to, like you said, kind of both from a career standpoint and from just taking some time for yourself. If we're working with a client who is a military spouse and has been on the back burner, and she uses her health as the catalyst to be more of a priority in her life, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I talk about, being a little more selfish. You can serve others better when you take care of yourself first.
1,000%. I think it's gotten kind of taken to the extreme with a lot of women, that anything we do for ourselves is selfish, and it's just so not true. We are worthy and deserving of being a priority, period. But let alone, no one else is getting the best of you if you are not your healthiest and happiest and most confident version of yourself.
Amen. Amen. So now that we've got that, I need to get you warmed up, because we can't just jump into the deep end of the pool here.
Yes.
I need to know, and our community wants to know, Esther, this is important stuff we want to know right here. You're on a deserted island. You get one food for the rest of your life. What can we count on you wanting to eat?
Okay. I have a question, because I was listening to other episodes.
Oh, you prepped. Okay.
Yes, I did. I did a little bit of prep, and I'm glad, so that I don't freeze. Do I have the ability to do any sort of change to it? Or do I need to request it in the form I'm going to eat it in?
No, it's your island. You're the president of this island, so you're getting whatever you want. So I just want to know what you want.
Cool. Okay. Well, potatoes, because they're so versatile. If I had to choose a form of potato, I would choose French fries.
Okay, you just came from Germany. You put mayo on those French fries, or you going ketchup?
I don't do either. If I'm going to do a dip, it's going to be a honey mustard, maybe a honey mustard barbecue mix. But I'm a believer that a good French fry doesn't need a dip.
That's a professional tip right there.
I consider myself a French fry professional.
Awesome. You get one superpower. What do you want to have, and why would you use it?
Teletransportation. Just for convenience, for travel purposes, it would be very nice. For example, so we're staying at my dad's house in Maine. He lives in a pretty rural area. There is not high-speed internet. So I'm at a friend's house in town to use the internet. I forgot the important cable that connects all of my miscellaneous things to my computer. I had to race back. I got here with like 90 seconds to spare. If I could teletransport, I would have just snapped my finger. I would have grabbed it, been back here in a second, been done. So just day to day, it would have practical purposes. And then just to be able to travel, you know what? We have a long weekend. We don't want to spend it all flying to and from a place. Boom, we're there. Cuts down a lot on your commute and things. So that would be my superpower.
I love it. Favorite book?
I read almost exclusively. I always mix this up. I read almost exclusively nonfiction.
Okay.
So the one that I think has had the biggest impact and really stands out in my mind that I recommend to everyone is Atomic Habits. It applies not just to health, but just life in general. I recently, at the recommendation of several clients, read a fiction book called Lessons in Chemistry. It was, I think, it was probably on Oprah's book list. Probably everyone in the world has read it. But as far as fiction goes, I really enjoyed that one a lot as well.
Okay. Atomic Habits. What was your big takeaway from that one?
So part of me feels like it was just reaffirming a lot of my beliefs and a lot of the work that I do with clients as far as setting small goals, putting specific steps in place. So at this point, it's hard for me to kind of pull out what I got from the book and what I kind of got from elsewhere. But I think the biggest takeaway that I remind myself of, and that is daily, relevant daily in my work, is to start smaller. So often we have something that we want to change and we want to make this grandiose effort and we just want to get there already. And then we have these starts and stops and this inconsistency where if you just, did a little bit more, that, kind of 1% each day adds up exponentially. So that's a reminder, for myself as well. Anything that I want to accomplish, what's the smallest next step? And if you just keep working on what's one step away, you'll cover a lot of ground without feeling overwhelmed by it.
I love it. Yeah, absolutely. You get to have dinner with one person. Who would you have dinner with and what would you want to ask them?
So I lost my mom to colon cancer almost 12 years ago. So she would be the person that I had dinner with. And I don't know that I have a specific question that I would want to ask because I believe that she is proud of me and the person that I am and the life that I have. I guess I would want to know, is there anything that you didn't get a chance to tell me that you wish you had? Or now that I'm 37 and not, am I 37? Yes. Now that I'm 37 and not 25, what advice would you have for me? She's never met my son. I hadn't met my husband then. So, what advice would you have for my, for your middle-aged daughter now?
I love it. I'll tell you, I get a little like sense of pride when I prepare for something. And then your question leads to my very next, your answer leads to my question. Because literally on my notes, my next question was, share with me the influence of your mom. Because as I was prepping, I saw a lot of stuff about your mom coming up on your website and your social. And if you listen to any of my stuff, my mom and I have a fantastic relationship and she is why I do what I do in life. So when you said that, I was like, oh, yes. All right. I'm on the right track here. So
we're on the right page.
Esther, talk to me a little bit about the influence of your mom. One of the things that I saw that you said is she's one of the most amazing women you've ever met. And she struggled with her weight. And you at times wonder what else she could have done if she hadn't had that struggle. Talk us through what you saw there and what did you learn from her struggle?
Yeah. I don't know that I appreciated at the time, how amazing she was, which I think probably goes for everyone. But she was a social worker. She was truly so incredibly kind. The probably quintessential example is she's the person who at Thanksgiving is inviting all of the stragglers, everybody who doesn't have a family or friends to spend the day with. Come do it with us. And she just always made people feel welcomed and loved, would do anything to help someone. She had such a big heart. She worked with homeless teens in our area and, just really had an impact. And even a decade later, I still get messages from some of the kids that she helped who will tell me the impact that she had on them. And, obviously that makes me feel very grateful that she wasn't just a random social worker who came into my life for a little bit of time. She was mine. I was an only child. She was only my mom. And that's a very cool thing. And I think especially now being a mother myself, I see more and more, why she raised me the way she did, how she, the values she instilled in me. I noticed myself telling my son some of the same things. And I think, having the opportunity to become a mother really helped me see just how fortunate I was. As far as her weight goes, something that I'm so grateful for is that I can only imagine now, having worked with so many other women whose mothers also struggled with their weight, she must have worked very, very hard to make sure that none of her body image issues became mine. Mm-hmm. I cannot think of a single instance where she spoke negatively about her body in front of me. She certainly never said anything negative about mine. She really stressed that, that I was beautiful inside and out, but that it's the inside that really matters, and never made her weight like a thing in our family or in our relationship. And it's really just kind of in hindsight, in some of the memories of, seeing Slim Fast shakes in childhood memories, vaguely remembering Weight Watchers meetings, things like that. And Denise Austin workout tapes and things like that I know this was a thing that she was working on. And I can vaguely recall her saying she had lost 25 pounds and just kind of the yo-yo. So I'm incredibly grateful that she did not pass along those issues to me. But a big part of what's shaped my career is learning and seeing that the approach that she was taking is kind of the standard one. It's what most women do. And she's not the only person for whom it doesn't work. That's kind of that's how things normally play out, is the ups and the downs, the frustration, the restriction, all those things. And as I developed more in my career and learned more about the psychology of behavior change and mindset work, I realized that there wasn't anything that she was doing wrong. She just didn't know how to approach losing weight in a more sustainable and a healthier, more successful way. So the clients that I gravitate toward are ones who remind me of her, the women who are, these selfless, do-good women who have these big hearts and don't know how to do anything but what they've done. And now I feel like I've cracked the code. I know what the pieces are that will help them be more successful. So, my mom has shaped all of that, my career trajectory.
I love it. I love it. And one of the things I saw, that your mission is to help make sure other daughters aren't asking questions and other moms don't look back and wonder what if. Right? That's so powerful. And I love how you took watching her struggle, and one, you didn't internalize it and take it on as your own struggle, which I think is very common in our world. But you actually looked at it and you wanted a solution so that other moms and women didn't go through the same ups and downs. When did that start? Like, when did you realize, like, okay, what I've learned isn't actually a detriment to hold me back from who I can become, but it's actually a catalyst to move me forward? When did that come together for you?
That's a great question. I think it has been a gradual progression. I was about 25 when my mom passed, and I had just moved to San Diego, across the country, and was kind of getting a fresh start on my own. And I feel like I was having my own struggles with binging and restricting. And at that point, I had a degree in exercise science. I had started getting nutrition certifications. I had a lot of textbook knowledge that I still was struggling to apply to myself and apply to other people. And that's what really got me interested in the psychological piece of how do you take the knowledge and turn it into something applicable to a variety of people. And I think with seeing my mom, it was just kind of, I don't want to live a life where I'm always looking in the past and always wondering, what if. But I think, there's only so much that we can control, and we have more control over a lot of our health than we realize. And to me, I don't want any other daughter or any other mom wondering, could I have done more? Could I have reduced my my risk of getting this disease? Could I have prevented needing this medication? Any of those things. And it's not as complicated as we've kind of been made to believe. And I really just want to help simplify that. And sure, there's going to be stuff out of your control, but at least if you can go to bed at night knowing I'm doing everything that I can for my health and for my family, then you sleep a little bit better. So I don't know that there's been like a defining moment so much as like just little by little. I'm like, you know what? I'm growing, I'm maturing. I've kind of picked up this and that from here and there. And, this is where I am now. Who knows how I'm going to evolve in the future. But I think it's always going to be, my mission.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you go back to small steps. Like you started doing things incrementally and then it puts you on this path, which I think is a huge lesson for our listeners out there is your moments in life are very seldom going to be one huge moment that happens once. Your life is defined and will become what you consistently do time after time, small steps, small steps. So I love that. And then the nice thing is in retrospect, once you take a bunch of small steps, you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, right? I'm here and now I'm able to impact people based on what I saw my mom go through. Right. And I think too many times people, especially in today's world, we're looking for purpose all the time. We're looking for this big thing. We want to sit idly and wait for it to show up. And I always tell people nothing shows up when you're idle. You got to get motion and momentum. So talk to me a little bit about this. What do you think are the dangers? Because I saw in your thing, you talked about what if, wondering what if. And I'm okay with wondering what if on the backside, I take action to move forward. So talk to me about how you explain that to your clients and just people in general of what if thinking without action versus what if thinking taking action.
That's a great distinction. So many of us just spiral mostly in the negative. We have an evolutionary tendency to look for the negative, and it's normal for us to just kind of ruminate or have anxiety and just like think and not do anything. And it's very easy to get stuck there. It's almost like, you're spinning your wheels, but each time you're getting a little bit deeper and then it's harder to get out of that kind of groove. But at the end of the day, nothing feels better and more empowering than taking action. And all of those fears or concerns, you're able to quiet them when you start taking action in opposition to them. So yeah, there are always going to be what ifs. There are always going to be things out of our control that just luck or fate or, whatever you believe in as far as that goes. So yes, that's a piece of it. But I think the biggest thing is that you get to decide what you spend your time and your energy thinking about and doing. You can choose to be somebody who just sits and spins and doesn't do anything. Or you can decide, I don't want to be that person. That isn't getting me anywhere. I'm going to be somebody who takes action. And it really, I know that seems simple, but it is. It really is as simple as just making the choice to be an action taker and to then say, what is the easiest action that I can take right now? It doesn't need to be doesn't even need to be related to like the big thing you're trying to accomplish. Just start getting some momentum. Just get some wins under your belt. Just show yourself that your choices have an impact. I think where a lot of people get lost, especially when we talk about making small changes, is that it's hard to connect each small choice to the greater goal. And that's why when it comes down to, well, does this workout matter? Not really. Does this meal matter? Not really. Like no, each singular choice is neither here nor there, but each of those add up, and making that connection that all of these small choices that kind of like add up this constellation that is the outcome that I want, that I think is incredibly powerful. So I think it's really a choice. Are you happy with the way things are right now? Likely no. And if not, what are you willing to do about it? The options really are accept it or do something about it. And from there, figure out the steps, have somebody help you figure out the steps, and just get moving. And what I've found is that the action quiets the negative inner chatter. And instead of always dwelling on what could go wrong, you can train yourself to spend more energy giving equal airtime to the positive. If you're going to think about anything, why not think about what could go right or what is possible for you or what you could accomplish? And it really is just a choice that takes practice to master.
So how do they practice that? What do you recommend people practice? Like David Goggins, I don't know if you're familiar with him, former Navy SEAL. He has what he calls the cookie jar, right? Which is where I put my wins so that when I'm facing my doubts, my insecurities, I just mentally pull a cookie out and tell myself I've done this, so I can do that. There's a lot of different metaphors. What do you teach, or what do you recommend for people that struggle with always getting pulled to the negative? It's a fight to see the good side. How do they start doing that?
I think the first step for pretty much everything is learning to build in a pause and notice what's actually happening. Because what's so hard about making changes is that we are operating on autopilot. We're not actively choosing these negative thoughts. They're just where our brain goes seemingly automatically. So the first step is giving yourself the opportunity to put a pin in it and notice, where's my head going? What am I thinking about here? Just developing that awareness is hugely helpful. And then once you have it, then you get to ask yourself the questions like, is this really true? What evidence do I have? What else could be true? How else could I be thinking about this? Is there a way that I could reframe this? Is there a silver lining? Questions like that. I think that's super powerful. And it's just the repetition. Just like in the gym, you don't get strong from, lifting weight one time. You get strong from lifting time and time and time and time and time again until you have sort of enough checks in the box that, that you're stronger. So in this case, if you default to this negativity, and you have for the last 30 years, that's a lot of unlearning to do. So you're really, putting checks in the other column of, okay, there's one positive thought I had, or one neutral thought if getting to positive feels like too much. I think a lot of times with mental work like this, we want it to be a one and done. Like, oh, okay, I heard this tip on a podcast, I'm good now. I don't do that anymore. And it's like, that's just not how it works. You have to be willing to put in the time like you do with anything else, which means you have to see the value in doing it. So I think that's one. Another exercise that I have found personally incredibly helpful, and I use with clients all the time, is essentially a journaling form that's basically a brain dump. So say you have a specific goal in mind. Ours are usually weight loss. You write your goal. You write on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident am I that I can accomplish this goal? And you don't need to be a 10. The point is not to fake it. The point is to be honest with yourself. When I journal about my business goals, I am very often between like a 3 and a 6, not feeling great about it. Mm-hmm. Then you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how committed am I to making this goal come true? Again, don't have to be a 10 there. You spend the first 5 minutes just dumping out all the reasons that you are that number. So that's going to be getting out all of the negativity. If you're a 3 out of 10 that you can accomplish this, why? What are you telling yourself that's making you so doubtful? I don't have time. I've never done it before. I don't know what to do. I always give up. I failed in the past, yada, 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 all that stuff. So you get that down on paper. And then you take another 5 minutes and you imagine you have already done the thing. Or you imagine that you are 10 out of 10 confident that you will do it. What would you be thinking then? And it just gives you an opportunity to kind of try on the thoughts of someone who is confident. And it's essentially the flip side of your current thoughts. So when I journal about business goals, my default thoughts are often, I don't have time. I've never done it before. I don't know what to do. Nobody's going to want it, et cetera, et cetera. So the new thoughts that I try on in the second half are, I have plenty of time, or I have as much time as I need. I can figure it out. I am resourceful. I will never know unless I try. I won't fail unless I give up. Things like that. It just lets you test out these new thoughts. And by testing them out, by doing this journaling on a consistent basis, it's easier for those thoughts to be in your head more quickly than if you're not doing it. And I've found that with time and consistency, my inner critic, my inner negativity is much quieter. And I much more often either default to things that are more positive, or I'm able to catch myself and be like, you know what, you are going down a doom spiral right now, and it is not doing you any favors. And I'm able to put the spin on it and be like, okay, this is what's going to help you take action. Taking action from negativity never sticks. That's like trying to hate yourself thin and telling yourself, I'll be happy when I get there. It needs to come from a place of love and compassion and understanding. And exercises like this can help you get there.
I love it. And what I love hearing that is not just weight loss advice. That is literally mental coaching for any place you are in the world, right? Like if you don't, here's what I say, like even if I bench press every day or I go lift weights every day, but I don't believe I'm getting stronger, I don't believe I'm getting better, then I'm really not, right? Because no matter what I physically do, if my mind doesn't connect that I'm actually improving, I will still hold myself back. And it doesn't matter
Absolutely.
if it's,
I think
go ahead, sorry.
That's what fires me up the most
Yes.
about, that's what fires me up the most about health and weight loss coaching is that, yes, I want you to reach your weight loss goals, but I know that it's about so much more than that for the client. You might not feel like that now. You might just be thinking like, I want my clothes to fit. I want to not see this, what feels like a huge number on the scale. But I know that the same steps you take to reach your weight loss goal, to reach your health goal, apply to literally everything. And it just seems like very logical to me that health be the first step, because you're going to be so much better equipped to tackle whatever else you want when you are the healthiest version of yourself. And then once you've proven to yourself, I can apply my time, my energy, my resources to my weight loss goal and accomplish that, your confidence is through the roof. Then you start thinking, you know what else can I do? And now I have the steps. Now I know what we coach in our program is learning and mastering the big rocks. In weight loss, it's what are the exercise and nutrition big rocks. But with any goal, there are going to be a handful of key behaviors that generate the majority of your results. So, if we, you've written a book, I'm writing a book. Well, what are the big rocks for writing a book? You need to sit down and write. Yeah. You need to, have a logical outline, things like that. So figure out what the big rocks are for that goal. Figure out what kind of comprehensive support that you need. Do you need a mentor? Do you need professionals? Do you need community? Do you need all of the above, accountability? And find those people. And then the third piece, we call it compassionate ownership. And it's just the recognition that you are responsible for making this happen. But like we were talking about earlier, you can do it from a place of love and understanding. And when you have that mindset towards any of your goals, you believe I can figure out, I am a person who can do this. I am capable of identifying my obstacles. And once I am capable of overcoming them, no matter what that means, learning, doing, becoming, etc. That is within my control. And when you have that, you're unstoppable.
I'm just making a note there real quick. That was fantastic. You are responsible for making this happen. And I think that is such an empowering statement when people take ownership of the life they're living or the life they're not living. Like it's nobody else's fault. Like that's my fault. And like just listening to the mental stuff there, one of the things I want people to understand is I don't care how good you are at anything, whether you're an Olympic level athlete, all the way to somebody that's just trying to lose some weight. We all have fears and we all have negative self-talk. And it's what you do with the negative self-talk that really pushes you to that next level, right? So I love that you're actually allowing them to write down, why am I rating myself so low? Because that's, like you said, that's clearing the self-talk, that the negative side. And, people don't even realize this, but when I was fighting, one of my favorite practices to get ready to go into a mixed martial arts fight in front of thousands of people, which is a pretty scary deal. Some of my favorite practices were with our guided meditations. And that's exactly what we talked about is we named our negative self-talk and we felt him and he could come out and tell us stuff. And then you could say, okay, I feel you telling me this. And I appreciate you wanting to look out for me, because usually negative self-talk is trying to keep you safe, right? Because we don't want to hurt our feelings. Our ego is going to get bruised if we stumble. We acknowledge it and then put them back in their place. Like, I appreciate you showing up, but I don't need you right now, big guy. I'm going to put you back in the corner and go forward. So I think that's fabulous that you're creating a platform that people can actually acknowledge that it's okay not to feel great for a moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And the avoidance of those feelings it's what drives a lot of our negative behavior. We
For
try
sure.
to avoid feeling sad or anxious or stressed or lonely or any of those things. So we eat, we doom scroll, we gamble, we shop, all the things. And just learning to, I think one of the most important lessons is to realize that the things you're experiencing are universal human experiences. I had hundreds of clients tell me some variation of, I feel like I'm the only person who blank. And everybody is going through the same things, but thinks it's a personal problem, thinks there's just something wrong with them. And it's so important. This is why community matters. This is why platforms like this matter, to be able to say openly, there is nothing wrong with you. This is not a character flaw. You are a human, and this is what it's like sometimes. And there are tools out there, and there are skills that you can develop to help you be better equipped to handle them in productive ways, like sitting with, what does it feel like to be lonely and not do anything about it, just to feel, what does it feel like in my body? How long does it last? Things like that. And to develop a more diverse set of coping skills. That's, I think, with a lot of things, probably, we put the emphasis on like the very surface level, what should I be doing type stuff. And we overlook like this mass of stuff that's beneath the surface. With weight loss, we focus a ton on what should I be doing for workouts? What's the best fat burning workout? We focus on, tell me what I should be eating. Just write me a meal plan that tells me what and how much, and I'll just follow it. And we overlook the fact that those things are very simple. What's complex is that you are a unique human being living a dynamic life, and it's all the other stuff that's pulling you away from the simplicity that you need to focus on. So for all of this, it's very much the what to do. It's the why am I not doing it? Let me explore that and figure out kind of where that's going to take me to figure out how to overcome it. If I know that my emotional eating is standing in the way, well, the answer isn't do a Whole30, do a 75 hard, rid myself of any temptations. The solution is, how do I get better at managing my emotions without food? If the issue is I keep saying yes to my boss and working long hours and don't have time to do stuff for myself, well, the issue is boundaries or time management and having those uncomfortable conversations. So I think it's so important to get beneath the surface and figure out, it's not that you're lazy, it's not that you're unmotivated, it's probably not even that you don't know what to do. There are other obstacles in the way, and those are what really require more of our time and energy.
How much of those examples, or how much do you see that a lot of it comes back to self-worth?
99%.
Right.
Like almost all of it. And it's fascinating because most people would not tell you that's an issue, either because they don't think it is, or because they've never even entertained like what it just feels like the norm.
Yeah.
There was something recently, I was doing some sort of mindset work, and something came up. It was like 7 limiting beliefs or something like that. And one of them was around worth. I don't believe I'm worthy of whatever. And that's mostly not one that I personally struggle with, but it was like the overwhelming majority of the group was like, oh yeah, that's me. And I think at the end of the day, that is what a lot of it boils down to, probably even in my own, like undiscovered as of yet. But if you think about it, if you believed that you were worthy of whatever thing, why wouldn't you be doing it? What's stopping you? And I think ultimately, if you dig deep enough, that's like the absolute root of pretty much everything, is feeling unworthy.
Yeah, that's powerful. One of the big things I challenge our community to do is take inventory of what I call the circle of 5, right? The 5 people that influence us the most, because that's the result of who you're going to become. So what advice do you give to somebody that says, man, Esther, I want to do this. I believe I can do this, but man, I'm getting pulled back into the bucket by those people close to me. How would you give them advice to shift a little bit there?
Yeah, that's so tough. And that's why a couple of years ago, we really started building out a bigger component of community in my coaching. I started off just doing one-on-ones, and in the course of having those conversations where everybody was telling me I'm the only one, and I was like, no, you're not. Literally everyone I've talked to today has said that. We started to see the value in being more open about that, having a community platform. And I really think the people you surround yourself with can make or break your success, which is so incredibly frustrating because you oftentimes haven't chosen the people who are around you. A lot of times it's, your parents or your siblings, your coworkers, the kids you've been friends with, the parents you met at the playground, or the kids you've known since you were, adults you've known since you were a kid. And you've just kind of like found yourself surrounded by people who maybe aren't aligned with your goals, or maybe they were until you kind of outgrew them and you see, you've done the work, you see that your worth is greater than you realized before, and you want more from your life. But the crab in the bucket mentality is one of my favorite visuals, because that is what it feels like a lot of the time. Is your growth makes other people feel threatened, and rather than using it as inspiration to level up themselves, it's just easier to pull you back down to the status quo. And especially when we're talking about health, the norm in the United States is unhealthy and overweight.
Right.
And if you want to be in the minority of people who lose weight and actually keep it off, the choices that you're making are going to seem weird to a lot of people, because they're not what most people are doing. And that doesn't make them wrong, but it makes it much harder to do when you can look around and say, well, I'm 50 pounds overweight, but I'm still the smallest of my friends. Or I want to, do a road race or be stronger or anything, but nobody around me understands it and supports me. There's just so many ways we get pulled back down. So to not leave you in the doom and gloom of that, I think going back to what we were talking about before, that we have more control than we think, especially in the age of the internet. I know social media is a double-edged sword, but when you're making intentional choices, you can curate your social media feeds. You can curate the community and the people that you interact with to create a support system that supports the person that you want to be. Women who are like-minded, who can help guide you, who can support you, who aren't going to ridicule you or try to bring you back down. And it requires effort. It's difficult to shift your relationships. It's difficult to maybe minimize a relationship that has been big in your life because this person is holding me back. It's difficult to be the friend who goes out for happy hour and chooses not to drink. It's difficult to say, you guys are, pressuring me to do things I don't want to do, so I'm going to take a break from, seeing you for a little bit. All those things are difficult. But I think a good reminder is that sometimes you have to give up good to get or to become great. And things might be good right now. They might be fine. For most of us, like, for all intents and purposes, like, things are fine. But if you want better than that, and if you have decided you are capable of more, sometimes you have to sit with the discomfort and get out of the status quo and know that what's on the other side of this discomfort is going to be worth it. So finding like-minded people in meetup groups, in social media, Facebook groups, things like that, joining an in-person, a gym, or working with a nutrition professional, seeking out people who are living the lifestyle that you want to be living or have accomplished the thing that you want to accomplish. I guarantee you 99% of those people are going to be eager to share with you, because people who are more, for lack of a better term, more evolved, who have done the self-work, who have a growth mindset, are the opposite of the crabs in a bucket. They are hanging over the edge with an arm down, helping pull you up. Yeah. And I know it can be uncomfortable to do that, to initiate that, but I guarantee you will not be disappointed if you say to someone, I would really like to learn more about, or I'm inspired by your doing this. Can you help me? And little by little, you can create a support system and a community that helps you live your best life.
I love it. And I 100% agree. And here's one thing that I challenge people that come to my leadership classes or follow me, and they they come at me with an excuse of why they can't do this or maybe they can't do that. And I will just ask them flat out, especially if they're a parent. I'll ask them, can your kids come to you with those same reasons for not doing things in their life? And if they can, then you're consistent. But if your kids come to you and say, Dad or Mom, I don't want to try that sport because I might fail. Mom or Dad, I don't want to try art because I might not draw well. I don't want to try to learn an instrument because I might not be good. And you say, okay, yeah, don't try anything you might not be good at. That's okay for the rest of your life. Then you should do it. Then you can do it. But if you would tell them, no, son, no, daughter, you got to go. Let's try this. Then I think we owe it to that next generation to lead by example and to take some challenges and take some risk ourselves. Because that's the one thing, last week's or a couple weeks ago, I had an episode I called it, Is This It? And I talked about what nurses share, the most common things nurses hear on people's deathbeds. And that's like one of the biggest things people say is, man, I thought I would have more fun in life, or I can't believe this is all I did. Well, we could start that right now. We can start, like, you can listen to this podcast and go out and then connect with Esther. You can take one small step towards living the life you want to live. And you'd be amazed what you will inspire around you.
You're absolutely right. Probably 15 years ago, I came across something very similar, the 5 regrets that people have on their deathbed. I wrote it down. I've had it in my wallet ever since. And it's incredibly powerful. To go back to what you're saying about parenting, that is one of the most hard-hitting coaching tips that I have ever stumbled across. We work primarily with moms. And when you present the idea of parenting yourself, it's like mind-blowing. You're absolutely right. Think about when your kid is whiny and says, I don't want to eat this for dinner, or I don't want to do that. You don't even entertain it. You just say, well, too bad. This is what we're doing. And sometimes you need to treat yourself with that same tough love. Too bad. This is what I planned. This is what's good for you. This is what we're doing. It's not a negotiation. You do it anyway. And I actually very recently had a really enlightening conversation with a therapist who was talking about doing inner child work. And that was something I wasn't super familiar with and was always a little kind of skeptical about, I guess, until we kind of stumbled on how you can tie parenting yourself into that. And essentially that, you have retained memories and beliefs from childhood experiences that are impacting who you are and how you are today. And sometimes you need to parent the younger version of yourself. You need to recognize that maybe your feelings of being unworthy or your self-doubts or any of those things stem from yourself as a child. So sometimes it's turning inward and saying, like, it's okay, you're safe, or I can take care of you, or whatever applies to you. Parenting is one of the most applicable skills to lifestyle change that there is, because you're exactly right. If you think about what would I say to my kid in this situation, more often than not, that is exactly what you need to hear yourself.
Yeah. I love it. And I call those, like, when we're living our no longer truths, right? There's certain things that were true in my life at 25 that are no longer true today. Now it's my job to challenge those truths, especially if they're limiting me, right? Especially if like for me, like, I was just always led to believe I wasn't good at music for whatever reason. Somewhere along the way, I believed I couldn't play music. I love music. And it wasn't until my most recent birthday that I was like, wait a second, why do I think I can't play music? So I got a ukulele to start playing music. Right now I love it. And I think that a lot of this doesn't have to, I don't want to say take on a negative context, but a context of trauma, right? I hear a lot about people like, I'm looking back on my childhood and this was traumatic or that was traumatic. And yeah, people have trauma, no doubt about it. But I also think when we look at those moments, much like we learn something from them, right? Much like seeing struggle in our early life, we can learn something from it. I mean, that's our job to take it and say, okay, what did I learn from seeing this? What did I learn from having a childhood of struggle, oh, I learned these skills. I learned perseverance. I can make $100 of groceries last 2 weeks because I practiced it as a kid. And I think, like you said, way back in the beginning, what is the silver lining in my current circumstance? Because there's always something.
Absolutely. That doesn't mean thinking like, oh, this, all these things that happened to me were good. It's just the acknowledgement that how I think about them now can continue to hold me back, or it can help propel me forward. And like we said at the very beginning, it's just a choice. You have more control over your choices than you think, and those drive everything.
And let me just add this, because you have control over your choices, you also have responsibility for what you choose for you to do. Right? And when we think like, wait a second, I am responsible for me. It's nobody else's job to make me the best me. Because nobody can do it but you.
Right.
All right. I love it. Now, before I let you go, because we just hit 48 minutes, before I let you, I got to know a couple things here. Tell me how the Office Space show helped you choose your major.
So this is interesting because in actually watching the movie again, my memories of it were completely wrong.
Right.
But as I remember it, there was a scene in the movie where one of the characters says to another, whatever you would do if you had $1 million is what you should do for a job. I watched the movie in high school where I was having to decide on colleges and majors. And at the time I had just kind of discovered going to the YMCA and working out. And I was like, well, I would just work out all day. And a little bit of research told me you can major in exercise science. And there we were. So in hindsight, my first job out of college was personal training, where I was getting paid to just watch people exercise all day and have very little time to do it myself. But that was what put me on this trajectory in the first place.
Oh, I love it. All right. The Price is Right. You are on the show. How'd that go?
I've never been on Price is Right.
You weren't?
No.
I saw it on your website. Oh, maybe I misread that.
I must have gotten you with 2 truths and a lie.
Oh,
so there's my lie.
Oh, yeah. So I read it. I was supposed to submit a question, but I was like, okay, maybe I didn't read it close enough.
So funny.
You want to be
I'll tell you, if I were on Price is Right, I would want to play Plinko, which I hope is everyone who watches Price is Right's answer, because it's by far the superior game. That and French fries. I have strong opinions about those two things.
Well, then, my friend, I will also concur with you that the G2 pen is, in fact, the best writing utensil ever created. Esther, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Where can our audience connect with you and stay in touch with what you're doing? Maybe join your movement to really empower women so they're not left wondering what if.
Yeah. I have a podcast called Live Diet Free. It's one of my absolute favorite things to do. We've got about 150 episodes. If you want to learn how to get started, get through any of these mental challenges, we've got episodes about all of it. We have amazing guests. We do client spotlights. I would love if you checked that out. Like I said, it's called Live Diet Free. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram. Esther Avant is my full name. And if the stuff that we were talking about today, weight loss and keeping it off, is applicable to you or relevant to you, I have a cheat sheet that I've put together for weight loss that lasts. It walks you through the exact formula we use in my coaching program. And it's like a quick 5-minute read. It gives you next steps, what your ultimate goals are, and really helps you apply that to your life. You can get that at esteravant.com/cheat sheet.
I love it. Esther, thanks so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to share your story with our community.
Thank you so much for having me.
And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. We will see you all again next week.